Hi, everybody. This is the last part 7 of our CSS. And now we are going to talk about border, okay, how to put border in the elements. So let me share again the screen. And we are very, very close to get to this point. We have to put the border here on the heading 2, the border, that dotted border around the image, and that border around the table. So let's see how we do in our almost complete CSS HTML document. So in the heading 2, I need to put that border. The way that we code the border is we put border, okay? And we can code everything in one single line. So I'm going to put a 2-pixel border. That's the thickness of the border. I'm gonna say that it's a solid border. That's the style of the border that I'm using. I'm not using dotted, okay? So I'm using solid. And I'm going to say that the color of it is Dodger blue, okay? That's a color that I found out on the web, so I'm going to use that. So for the image, okay, so here is the image tag. I don't have any style attribute yet, so I'm going to put a style attribute. The reason I'm separating here in the code in different lines is so that it's more, it's easier to visualize for you, okay? So here again, border. I'm going to use now 3 pixels, okay? So it's gonna be thicker than the border of the heading 2. It's not gonna be solid, it's gonna be dotted, and it's gonna be red. That's the border of my image. And I have a border around the table. So here inside the style that I already had for the table that I put the background image, I'm going to give a space to start the border. Okay, so let me start the border in another line so it's easier for you to see. Border, and I'm going to put 2 pixels here. And solid red. That's the border that I have for the table. So now if I save and I refresh, you have the borders that were missing to our elements. Now, one thing to note is, look at the border around the heading 2, okay? So as I told you in the previous video, the heading element takes the whole width of the browser because it's a block element. So by default, it's gonna take 100% of the width of the browser. So that's why when I put text align for that heading 2, it's aligning the content. As you can see, the element per se, it's still taking the whole width of the browser. Now, if I would put the width to be smaller of the heading 2, you are going to see that the border would follow the width that I put for that element. Okay, and the align would be centralized, not within the width of the browser, but within the width of the element per se. I'm going just to put here different width in the CSS of the heading 2, so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to put the width of the heading 2 to be 500 pixels. Okay, I know that it's smaller than the width of my browser. So you're going to see what happens with the border and what happens with the text align center. So save, refresh, you see? So now the width of my element is 500 pixels, and as you can see, the content is centralized within those 500 pixels, okay? Not within the whole width of the browser anymore, okay? And by the way, another detail that I wanted to show to you, look here that in the image, I have the width attribute, as also I have the height attribute. Notice that I put only the number. I do not use the unit. When I put width as an attribute for the image, I use only the number. That will mean pixels for the browser, but it's wrong to put the unit here. Now, if I would change their width and height here to be inside the style attribute, meaning they would be CSS properties, then I would need to put the pixel, okay? So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to put the width and the height inside the style as a CSS property. So I need to put width 200 pixels, semicolon, space, height, and then I put 200 pixels here, okay? So as a CSS property, the width and the height, they need the units, not only the number, but as an attribute, only the number, okay? So that would be the last thing to talk about in that CSS lesson, and I hope you enjoyed that, and that's it. Let me stop sharing and have a nice day.